and even used the word integrity to describe what they were doing. We got Jack on board with implementing this for civic integrity in the near term, but we're going to need to make a more robust case to get this into our repertoire of policy recommendations, especially for other policy domains. What does that mean? Twitter's mission originally was to give everyone the power to create and share ideas and information without barriers. But we see now, without a doubt, that all that was just a marketing campaign, because barriers were an integral part of their strategy to control and dominate the public square. Now imagine if Elon Musk had never bought Twitter. We'd never know anything about any of this. Well, it cost $44 billion, but now we see just how corrupt, how cutthroat, and how devious big tech is. And that's the angle. Joining me now is the aforementioned Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, Stanford University professor of medicine. Dr. Bhattacharya, your reaction, this is blockbuster after learning that you were secretly placed on this trends blacklist.
Yeah, it feels like some novel from the 1950s where the House Un-American committee is like meeting to decide who to suppress, and I'm some sort of like movie star in Hollywood that they're blacklisting because I'm a communist or something. It's ridiculous, and it really hurt public health. If we'd had an open discussion, Laura, the schools would not have closed in the fall of 2020. If we had an open discussion, the lockdowns would have been lifted much earlier. Data and evidence behind them was so bad. Twitter, by suppressing scientific discussion, harmed science, harmed children, and harmed the American public. And I really do wonder how I ended up on I joined Twitter in 2021, in September 2021. Who told Twitter to put me on a blacklist? I really want to know.
Well, at this point, I think it is incumbent upon Congress, Dr. Bhattacharya, especially Kevin McCarthy, if he becomes the next speaker, to drop all the formality here, bring these people to Congress, and find out what really happened. That means the calls, the texts, the emails, all between, whether it was Anthony Fauci or someone else at NIH, anything that even touched on this issue has to be brought to the public light, in my view. Declaration. Doesn't it feel like that? And you're such a nice guy, Jay.
Okay, thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. I think from a public policy point of view, if you look at what the government did, I suspect very strongly that there was some government direction of this. I've been involved with this lawsuit offices against the Biden administration, and we've uncovered tremendous evidence that there were federal agencies that were directing social media companies about what to censor, even who to censor. Now, if that is actually the case, that this blacklisting was directed by the government against American citizens, that's a direct violation of my civil rights. It's a direct violation of the First Amendment, and every American should be.
Dr. Bhattacharya are everywhere. Disinformation consultant, that's her name. That's her title. Melissa Ryan downplayed all that we learned tonight. In tonight's edition of the Twitter Files, we learned that all Twitter's info. Bari Weiss didn't bother to read any of Twitter's policies posted on its website. Both she and Musk should be embarrassed by this. Embarrassed? My question is, where's Anthony Fauci tonight? He's speaking out about prominent physicians having their voices suppressed.
I mean, I think a lot of the leadership of Silicon Valley, a lot of the people who give advice to Silicon Valley and to the government about these content moderation policies, they've gone way too far. It's one thing to suppress violent threats against people. That is absolutely appropriate. But then to turn around and then decide that they're going to suppress discussions about basic scientific policy. I mean, I wasn't saying anything that was threatening people other than maybe Tony Fauci. Not physically, just his ideas. We needed to have a discussion, an open, scientific discussion about the right policies for COVID. Imagine how different that all the small businesses could stay open, all the people that wouldn't have missed their cancer screenings, all the kids that wouldn't have to be depressed and suicidal, that all learning loss that could have been avoided if we just had an open scientific discussion. This was not a free and fair kind of discussion. It wasn't science that happened. When we followed the science, it was not actually science we followed. It was something else entirely. It was censorship that I think led to the tremendously bad policies we've had over COVID and the failure that we've seen over the last 3 years.
I'm going to take it farther. I think this shadow banning actually could have, well, did, a few steps removed. It led to death. I mean, I think kids, because of these lockdowns, the mental health evidence that is piling up now all across the country, suicide, depression, anxiety, self-harm, everything we're seeing that came out of those lockdowns, we couldn't talk about it. You were called a conspiracy theorist, and so was I.
I mean, like, it's basically a propaganda operation, right? So what do you do when you have a thing like the internet where you can't really stop information from spreading? Well, what you do is you shadow ban, you send out like signals. This person is off limits. Don't even think about their ideas. It's like this sort of sly way of trying to get your way without actually arguing over facts. It's insane. I mean, I think instead of and it's also telling, Laura, instead of arguing over facts, they use these techniques because they knew their arguments were not strong enough to survive the light of day. I mean, I really just don't know how to process it. I mean, I grew up in the U.S. I was born in India. Grew up in the U.S. since I was 4. I've always thought about the United States as a free country, but it really hasn't felt that way these last 3 years. And I think now we're starting to see what the parameters of that are. I think we really need to have a national conversation that brings us back to the American commitment to free speech rights, the American commitment to open discussion and sort of honest dealings. And I think the Silicon Valley Twitter crowd, I mean, I think they behave very badly, but I wonder, Laura, if this actually is at the direction of the American government, then we have an even broader discussion to talk about than just Silicon.
I think we're just scratching the surface, and I think these tactics that Twitter employed pre-Musk, they're being used on a whole series of medical issues right now. We've talked about them on the angle, whether it's sex change operations or, I mean, there's an entire effort to suppress speech or an honest discourse, and doctors are afraid to speak out. Dr. Bhattacharya, you gave an enormous amount of information to us over the last 2.5 years. We're eternally grateful to you, and I know you've been planning to do TV tonight, so we really appreciate it. Joining me now is Newt Gingrich, former House Speaker and Fox News contributor. Newt, my question to you is, why can't we learn about everyone who was shadow banned? Now, well, just minutes ago, Elon Musk tweeted, Twitter is working on a software update that will show your true account status so you know clearly if you've been shadow banned, the reason why you were, and how to appeal it. Newt, I mean, should any of this exist for any iteration at this point?
Look, I think all of it ought to come out in the open, and it's amazing that here is a first generation immigrant to America who is doing more to uphold American values, the First Amendment, your right of free speech, than anybody we've ever seen. I mean, it's remarkable what he's done so far. I hope he'll have the courage to continue and let it all out there. I mean, people deserve to know what was going on. And then the challenge comes to Facebook and to Google to match that kind of openness, because frankly, they've been at least as bad, and Google in some ways has been worse, I think, than it was Twitter. And so these systems are so gigantic, they are so powerful, and there's so much in everybody's lives that they have to be transparent, or we're going to have to do something pretty dramatic to limit capacity.
Well, I mean, isn't this now beyond obvious that Congress does have to step in here? I mean, Republicans always want to take a hands-off approach to big business, but we've seen, and you and I have talked about this, that time and again, big business, not the 80s anymore, has become diametrically opposed to the American tradition of free speech, Second Amendment, parental rights. et cetera, et cetera. And the wokeness and the disinformation, campaigns, all of that's part of it.
Look, what you're seeing is what originally fascism was all about, which is the idea that big government gets together with big business to control the country against small business and against individuals. And I think what we're going to find out, what we're beginning to find out, is that the FBI was deeply involved in all this. We're going to find out, I think, that the Center for Disease Control, that Dr. Fauci, who, remember, is a public official. He's not just a celebrity. He is a government official with certain obligations and certain responsibilities. And I think we're going to find out all of these people were violating the First Amendment illegally, and that this is a much deeper and bigger mess than people realize.
Newt, I want to play this moment from this ex-Twitter safety chief, this guy, Roth, just 2 weeks ago, defending the Twitter protocols.
We had a system of governance. It was rules-based. We enforced our rules as written. We changed our rules in writing. We did it transparently. And when that system of governance went away, you don't need a head of trust and safety.
Newt, for Twitter leadership to claim that they were transparent, I mean, now with everything we're seeing, it's just offensive.
Well, Laura, I don't quite know, for reasonable people, how you get across the idea these people are just liars. It's not complicated. They're liars. All the time. They have total contempt for the rest of us. They think they can break the rules and get away with it. They think they are somehow this elite that's above, and that we're too stupid to know what they're doing. And I think we all too often, and this is a case where, by the way, I think McCarthy is showing the right leadership with people like Adam Schiff, who was chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, just routinely lied to the American people, totally misinformed them. Well, there ought to be a consequence, and we ought to start with simple, old-fashioned language. These people are to be ostracized. They ought to be kicked out of polite society if there is such a thing anymore. But we shouldn't kid ourselves. I don't need any complex explanation when I'm looking at a total liar.
Newt, we really appreciate your voice tonight. Thank you. Reiner prisoner swap. Now, it wasn't just infuriating and deflating because of the slime, but the man we left behind as well. The brother of Marine vet Paul Whelan. Moments with the family's thoughts. Stay with us.
This holiday, get a T-Mobile Sync-Up Kids Watch to help keep your kids close, even when you aren't. It has two-way calling, messaging, and real-time location tracking, plus fun features for kids. Now parents and kids can connect on our biggest and best T-Mobile network ever. Get the Sync-Up Kids Watch free today. You had a qualified watch line. The 24-monthly bill credits plus tax for well-qualified customers. If you cancel service before receiving 24 credits, credits stop your balance and require financing agreements to location information approximately $9 T-Mobile.com.
Life is uncertain. It's okay to feel stressed, anxious, worried, frustrated. And help. Access Calhoun's free and secure mental health resources. Call 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhoun.org.
Are you taking your bachelor's or master's degree online? At Northwest University, we offer career-focused programs that are 100% online, are nationally recognized for excellence. Unlike larger online universities, Northwest is a private, non-profit Christian university that is focused on your success. See what a difference Northwest University can make in your online academic experience. Find out more at northwestu.edu/online.
At Shane Company, we've been experts in the diamond business since 1929. You can now choose between either a natural or lab-grown diamond for your engagement ring, studs, or pendant. When it comes to our new lab-grown diamonds, we apply our same superior standards and work with the best diamond vendors who've perfected the art and science of creating gorgeous diamonds in the lab. We'll show you our huge selection in every price range and help you choose the perfect diamond for you.
Now you have a friend in the jewelry business. Shane.com.
This holiday season, Lexus wants you to remember. It's not just the thought that counts, it's your thought. Because no matter how much time you spend picking out the perfect gift, the only thing they'll really care about is that it's from you. Here's to experiences they'll continue to cherish. Season after season, make this December one to remember. Together, click the banner to discover more. Experience amazing at your
Lexus dealer.
Membership fees apply after free trial. Cancel anytime.
Okay, so why do people love my total body bar workouts? Because they work. My clients get an amazing workout and great results. I'm Andrea Rogers, professional dancer and trainer, and my Extend Bar classes in only 30 minutes and proven to help you get sculpted, lean, and strong. And right now, you can stream my Extend Bar classes for free on the Beachbody On Demand app. See how effective these workouts truly are. Start for free today at beachbody.com.
Who are you? I'm you, from the future. What do you want? I want to tell you about Dave. Dave has your future money. Spend it on whatever you need. With extra cash from Dave, you can get up to $500 instantly. No interest. Credit check. Download the...
Moments ago, standing together, Wife Sherrill, at the Oval Office, I spoke with Brittany Griner. She's safe. She's on a plane. She's on her way home. This is a day we've worked toward for a long time. We never stopped pushing for her release. It took painstaking and intense negotiations.
Painstaking and intense negotiations for WNBA star Brittany Griner in a prisoner swap that shocked the country, not just because of what the U.S. gave up for her. This is a warlord who sells weapons to kill Americans, but whom we left behind. Like Mark Fogel, an American teacher who is now languishing in a Russian arrested for bringing about a half ounce of medical marijuana into the country. He was sentenced to 14 years in prison. And then there's Marine vet Paul Whelan, arrested on a bogus espionage charge back in 2018. Russia says he was caught red-handed with a USB drive containing classified intelligence. His lawyer says he was framed in a sting operation. Whelan was sentenced to 16 years of hard labor in a Russian prison and spoke out today after Griner release.
I have to say I'm greatly disappointed that more has not been done to secure my release, especially as the 4-year anniversary of my arrest is coming up. I was arrested for a crime that never occurred. I'm happy that Brittany is going home today and that Trevor went home when he did. But I don't understand why I'm still sitting here. My bags are packed. I'm ready to go home. I just needed to come and get me.
I got teared up when I first heard that. Joining me now is David Whelan, Paul Whelan's brother. David, I know that you and so many in America are happy that Brittany Griner is, but of course your reaction tonight to those words from your brother.
It's hard. You can hear in his voice the despair. I haven't heard my brother's voice like over a phone call. So it's these snippets that come through in the media that are the latest time I can hear him. And you can hear how disappointed he was at the news. And it's not really surprising. I think we all had heard Secretary Blinken back in August say or provide the news about the substantial proposal to Russia to bring Paul and to bring Brittany home. And I think he had been betting on that. And so to find out that it was not going to happen is probably hugely disappointing.
What's the status of the communication you've had with the administration about securing your brother's release? I mean, it seems like, obviously he's been there a lot longer, and as has, Mr. Fogel, the teacher, been there longer. So what is the government saying to your family now about Paul?
Well, I think they've been consistent in that they have been dedicated, certainly in the last few years particularly, to help Paul, to bring him home, and to do what they can. But the reality is each case, each wrongful detainee around the world, and Paul's one of over maybe 50 being held in countries like Iran and China and Syria. Each of those cases has different requirements in order to be free. And I think in this case we found that there was a roadblock in Paul's case that in Ms. Griner's case, and it allowed her to come home and it left him behind.
Well, a Russian roadblock is kind of hard to define on national television because it's all quite murky, and politics a lot of people think are involved here. But it took a warlord. I mean, they traded a notorious warlord who's like to killing Americans, and I imagine Ukrainians, to bring Brittany Griner home. If it took a warlord to bring a more recent arrestee home, what is it going to take to bring your brother home?
I do think that's the question, and I am looking to answer it because when Paul was initially arrested, we knew that